We're going to break down some of our overrated NFL teams heading into this season, and we're going to look at the win totals. So obviously overrated means we're leaning towards the under. And if you don't mind, Ben, I'm going to start us off with my first team that I think is one of the more overrated teams that I'm going to hit the under for, being the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, you look at their win total right now, sits at 8.5. And don't worry, Jake, if you could turn down the music a little bit, we can turn the music down. That'd be awesome. Thank you so much. The LA Chargers, under 8.5 wins. I think 8.5 is too much for this team, and here's why. You look at the Chargers, they're in the same division as the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I do think the Broncos and Raiders are kind of those weaker teams, but I think with the Raiders and what they've established at quarterback with Minshew, and you got the Broncos with Sean Payton, I think I'd rather have those than the type of offense that Justin Herbert's going to be dealing with two severely injury-prone running backs with Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Who's he going to throw the football to? You got Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson. And then on the other side of things, I just think they lost a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball, even though Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Derwin James are great, but I just find a lot of holes with this team. I don't think they're going to be a terrible team, but I have a hard time thinking that they're going to win 9 games next season. So I think the Los Angeles Chargers are my first overrated team. I got them at the win total being over 8.5. My second team, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, is the New Orleans Saints. Now, you look at the New Orleans Saints, a weak division again. NFC South, and last year, if you remember, the Buccaneers won the division. It was a really weak division. The Falcons had some quarterback woes. The Panthers with Bryce Young couldn't protect them. But the Saints, I just don't know what I feel about Derek Carr. Derek Carr was hurt last year. He was getting banged up with the offensive line that they had. You've got Alvin Kamara, who's almost 30 years old, pushing 28. Is he going to be healthy this year? Your wide receiver core, you got Chris Olave as your wide receiver 1. And then on the defensive side of the ball, it just seems like we're getting a bunch of guys that their prime is starting to come to an end when Tyrann Mathieu and Chase Young. And you look at their schedule. Now, their over-under total for wins is at 7.5. You start out with Carolina, which, again, that should be a win. At Dallas, loss. Home against the Eagles, loss. At Falcons, at Kansas City, home against the Buccaneers, loss. So you're heading into week 7, and you're 1-6. You've got Denver, Chargers, Carolina again. You go on and on and on. It's just a lot of tough matchups, I think, for this team. I think for Dennis Allen and their head coach right now, I just do not feel comfortable with the New Orleans Saints next year. I think you could split some games with the Carolina Panthers. I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to be improved. The Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield are a much better team. But for me, Ben, I think the Saints are an overrated team, and I think they could win 5 games next season, and it could be a season that Derek Carr leaves, or maybe they get rid of Derek Carr. I know they got Spencer Rattler as one of their backup quarterbacks. Maybe he gets some time in the back end of the season, but I just don't feel good about the Saints next season. I got them under 7.5 wins. I got the Chargers and the Saints. Your thoughts about both those teams?
Yeah, so I can't exactly find the under-over score here for the team that I think is the most
I got you. I'll look it up for you, bro.
I believe the Philadelphia Eagles are the most overrated team right now in the NFL. That is a team that defensive back-wise, they have a lot of issues back there. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was one of their main acquisitions, was not very good last year. Cooper DeJean is more seen as a safety hybrid, probably a slot corner at times for the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll see. A lot of the times, those rookie corners or DBs are picked on. I still think that they have huge question marks there. The linebackers aren't that much better than they were a year ago. No, we know they had a lot of injuries. And then Hassan Reddick's gone. The pass rush got worse. This defense has a lot of holes that not a lot of people are talking about. We'll see how great Jalen Hurts is after a kind of a down year for him. And then the Saquon Barkley thing, I've always been skeptical of. Saquon Barkley has had 2,000-yard rushing years, and after that it's been a lot of, as the kids call it, really mid of Saquon Barkley. I'm not a big Saquon Barkley guy. I'm a big skeptic of him. And again, what more is he going to add to the offense that DeAndre Swift didn't have last year? Compare the stats between DeAndre Swift and Saquon Barkley's best year. They're not that different. So I feel like they were just throwing money at a position that's not a real premium position. And then Another team that I believe is
so the Eagles is 10.5 wins.
Yeah, I don't believe that, I don't see the Eagles getting 10.5 wins.
Yeah, I don't think they can win 11 games.
I thought you were going to tell me it was going to be like 8.5. I'd have been like, okay, maybe I got to take it back. 10.5 seems really rich for a Philadelphia Eagle team who defensively has a lot of question marks on that team. Their biggest splash signing was a running back, in which everyone tells me running backs aren't that valuable, which I would agree with. And so that's a team right there that I believe is really, really overrated. And then if you could look up this one for me as well, because I believe this one's 11.5 as well. The San Francisco 49ers. I know that they're a good team. When I say they're overrated, it's not me saying they're a bad team. I don't know if this team's going to be really good like they were. Brandon Ayuk has got a huge question mark on him. And usually teams that are really noisy in the offseason tend to lead to disappointing regular seasons. You kind of see this as well with the Cincinnati Bengals. They've been really noisy all year, whether it's T. Higgins or guys getting arrested. The Cincinnati Bengals have been really noisy, but the San Francisco 49ers, this Brandon Ayuk dilemma has been a huge issue for them. They have question marks on the field in terms of what are they going to do if Brandon Ayuk is gone. That's another big weapon. George Kittle's getting older. Deebo Samuel gets injured a lot. Trent Williams is a really good left tackle. Outside of that, their offensive line is a little so-so, and at times Nick Bosa was boom or bust. I think as we get further away from that Super Bowl season from Brock Purdy, he's going to be asked to do more, and it's not me saying he's a bad quarterback because that's just disingenuous and that's wrong. But do I think he's a top 3, top 5, top 6 guy? No, and the more he's asked to carry that team, the more trouble I believe the San Francisco 49ers are going to be in. And we've all heard of the Super Bowl hangover. That's a real thing. So two teams that I'm highly skeptical of, both in the NFC, San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles.
And it's interesting with that, too. The 49ers are 11.5 win over for the win total for them this season. And you look at some of the odds for the NFC. 49ers are favored at plus 290, Lions plus 600, and the Eagles at plus 650. So 2 out of the 3 favorites to win the NFC. Mr. Benjamin Garcia thinks that they're going to be a little overrated this year. And you look at the Niners schedule, they open up with the New York Jets. They got some tough games in the middle of the season with Kansas City and Dallas. And then you got the ones towards the end of the season where it starts to get cold. You got to go at Green Bay, at Buffalo, Miami. At Miami won't be a problem either. But to your point, Ben, that's one thing about the NFL that they do. The better you play, the tougher matchups that you're going to have. Because why? The primetime games and the marketing. And that's what the NFL does better than the NBA. And that's why the NFL captured Christmas Day as their day, is because they know matchups is what drives fans in.
Yeah, and the San Francisco 49ers, I feel like I have to keep saying this. I'm not saying they're going to be bad. I'm not saying they're going to miss the playoffs. That is disingenuous, that's wrong, and that's just trying to get a reaction. But to think they're going to replicate exactly what they did the year ago after coming up short in the Super Bowl, in which they didn't play well in any playoff game, the Lions game was gift wrapped to them, Jordan Love was a little over his skis, and in the Super Bowl they didn't play particularly well, and they lost that game. So we'll see what the Niners are going to do. I believe that they're a playoff team. But just penciling them in the NFC Conference Championship game, I think is doing a little too much.